The glass table exploded without warning. Crystal shards flew across the penthouse office as the man standing behind it slammed his fist down with brutal force. Papers scattered. A whiskey tumbler shattered against the marble floor. "Get out!" The two executives froze. "I said get the hell out." They didn't need a second invitation. They grabbed their folders and rushed out, nearly tripping over each other as the doors slammed shut behind them. Silence followed. Heavy. Dangerous. Ethan Blackwood stood alone in his New York penthouse, chest rising and falling slowly, jaw clenched so tight it looked painful. At 32, he was already a billionaire, finance, private equity, real estate empires stretching from Manhattan to Miami. The press called him reckless. His competitors called him unstoppable. Those who knew him better called him something else. Unfeeling. Ethan walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Manhattan glowed beneath him, alive and ignorant of the storm inside the man who owned half the skyline. His phone buzzed. "Marcus, you can't keep doing this. The board's nervous." Ethan didn't reply. "Marcus, we need her. She's the best in the business." That made Ethan's fingers tighten around the phone. "Ethan, no." A pause. "Marcus, you don't get to say no this time. Contracts are collapsing. Investors are whispering. And she's already agreed." Ethan exhaled slowly. "Damn it," he muttered. 3 days later, Claire Monroe stood in the lobby of Blackwood Holdings, adjusting her blazer as she scanned the towering glass walls. She hated places like this. Too clean, too powerful, too full of men who thought money made them untouchable. At 28, Claire was one of the most respected high-end real estate strategists in the country. White American, raised in suburban Connecticut by parents who taught her discipline before ambition. She didn't flirt her way into deals. She didn't bend rules. And she didn't mix business with emotion. Ever. Her phone vibrated. "Oh, big day?" Claire smiled faintly. "Claire, just another billionaire with an ego problem." She slipped the phone into her bag as a sharply dressed assistant approached. "Ms. Monroe? Mr. Blackwood is ready for you." Claire nodded, calm on the outside, focused, prepared. She followed the assistant toward the private elevator, unaware that the contract waiting upstairs would unravel everything she believed about control. The elevator doors opened directly into the penthouse office. Claire stepped out and immediately felt it. The air was different, charged. Her eyes lifted. Ethan Blackwood stood near the windows, hands in his pockets, dressed in a dark suit that looked custom-made to intimidate. Broad shoulders, sharp features, dark hair slightly unkempt, like he didn't care enough to fix it. He turned. Their eyes met. For half a second, the world paused. Claire had expected arrogance. She hadn't expected intensity. Ethan studied her without apology, his gaze slow, assessing. Not her resume, not her confidence, but her. "You're Claire Monroe," he said. His voice was deep, controlled, dangerous. "Yes," she replied evenly. "And you're Ethan Blackwood." A corner of his mouth twitched. "You know who I am." "I do my homework," she said. "That's why I'm here." He walked toward her. Each step felt deliberate, predatory. "I didn't ask for you," Ethan said. Claire didn't flinch. "I didn't ask to be asked. But here we are." That earned her his full attention. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the table. She did. He remained standing. Power move. Claire noticed and ignored it. "I'll be direct," she said, opening her folder. "This contract is strictly professional. I restructured distressed luxury assets, stabilized public perception, and maximized long-term value. Nothing more." Ethan leaned forward, palms flat against the table. "And what happens?" he asked quietly. "If I don't like your methods?" Claire met his gaze without hesitation. "Then you fire me, and I walk away." Something dark flickered in his eyes. "People don't walk away from me." Claire smiled politely. "People like me do." Silence stretched between them. Then, unexpectedly, Ethan laughed. A low sound. Brief. Genuine. "Interesting," he murmured. "You're not afraid." "I am," Claire said honestly. I just don't let it run my life. That answer hit harder than she realized. Ethan straightened. 6 months, he said. Exclusive contract. No outside clients. Total discretion. She scanned the document. Her eyebrows lifted slightly. This is generous. It's leverage, he corrected. You work for me. She closed the folder. No, she said. I work with you. Or not at all. Another long pause. Then Ethan extended his hand. Fine. She shook it. The moment their hands touched, something electric snapped between them. Sharp, unwelcome, undeniable. Ethan felt it. Claire felt it. They both ignored it. Big mistake. Later that night, Ethan stood alone again, staring at the city. Marcus leaned against the wall, watching him. You're thinking about her, Marcus said. Ethan didn't answer. That's not good. Ethan finally spoke, voice low. She thinks she's immune. Marcus sighed. Don't do this. Ethan's jaw tightened. I didn't choose this. But you will, Marcus replied. And when you do, someone's going to get hurt. Ethan's reflection stared back at him from the glass. Cold, controlled, unprepared for what was coming. Because for the first time in his life, a contract wasn't enough to contain what he wanted. And Claire Monroe had no idea that signing her name had just placed her in the center of a billionaire's obsession. Claire learned something important during her first week at Blackwood Holdings. Ethan Blackwood never did anything halfway. Meetings started before sunrise. Calls came in at midnight. He expected perfection, silence, and loyalty, and he gave nothing in return but pressure. And yet, he never missed a detail. Miami project, Ethan said from the head of the conference table. Eyes locked on Claire. You're restructuring the public-facing ownership, not the financial core. Claire didn't look up from her tablet. That would be a mistake. A ripple of unease moved through the room. No one contradicted Ethan Blackwood. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Explain. She finally looked at him. If you hide the financial core, investors will assume you're masking losses. Transparency builds trust. Control the narrative instead of burying it. Silence. Executives shifted in their seats. Ethan studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Do it her way. The room froze. Claire felt the weight of a dozen stares as the meeting adjourned. As people filed out, Marcus lingered. You realize, he muttered under his breath. You just did what no one else has done in 5 years. Claire kept her voice calm. I did my job. Marcus glanced toward Ethan's office. That's what worries me. Later that evening, Claire stayed late, reviewing documents in a glass-walled workspace overlooking the city. Her heels were kicked off under the desk, blazer draped over the chair. She didn't hear him approach. You're still here. Claire looked up sharply. Ethan stood in the doorway, jacket off, sleeves rolled up. Less armor. More danger. Deadlines don't respect business hours, she said. He stepped inside. Neither do I. She resisted the urge to stiffen. If this is about the Miami deal, it's not. That made her pause. Ethan leaned against the desk, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Subtle, expensive. Why real estate? He asked suddenly. Claire blinked. What? Why not hedge funds, tech, startups? His eyes searched her face. Why buildings? She hesitated. That's personal. So is everything, he replied. She closed her laptop slowly. My father built houses. Small ones. He believed property meant stability. Safety. Ethan absorbed that quietly. And you? She asked. Why control everything? His jaw tightened. Because if I don't, he said, someone else will. The honesty surprised them both. A charged silence settled between them. Then Ethan straightened. You should go home. Claire nodded. Good night, Mr. Blackwood. As she walked past him, his voice stopped her. Claire. She turned. Don't mistake my respect for restraint. Her pulse spiked. Duly noted, she said, and left. That night, Claire lay awake in her Manhattan apartment, staring at the ceiling. She told herself the tension was imagined. that Ethan Blackwood was just another powerful man used to getting his way. But her body betrayed her thoughts. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Unknown. Did you get home safe? Claire sat up. She didn't save his number. Claire. Yes. You don't need to check on me. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Ethan. I do. She stared at the screen far too long before replying. Claire. Good night, Ethan. No reply came. But she knew he was awake too. 2 weeks later, everything shifted. The threat arrived quietly. Claire noticed it first. A delay in permits. A zoning approval mysteriously stalled. Then a call from a contact she trusted. You've got eyes on you, the man warned. Someone's asking questions. About you. Not the company. You. Claire's stomach tightened. She ended the call and walked straight into Ethan's office. We need to talk. Ethan looked up slowly. You usually knock. Someone is interfering with my work, she said. And I don't believe in coincidences. Ethan's expression darkened. Who? I don't know yet, but it's connected to you. He stood immediately. You're staying close. That's not professional. That's not optional. Claire crossed her arms. You don't get to control my movements. Ethan stepped closer, voice low. You're under my protection now. She laughed once, sharp. I didn't ask for that. You signed a contract, he replied. And you matter to my operation. She searched his face. And if I mattered to you? She asked quietly. For a split second, something cracked. Then the walls slammed back into place. That's irrelevant, Ethan said. Claire nodded slowly. Good, she said. Because I don't belong to you. She turned to leave. Ethan caught her wrist. Not rough, but firm. The air between them ignited. Let go, she said softly. He didn't. Ethan. His thumb brushed her pulse. Too intimate. Too dangerous. Finally, he released her. Be careful, he said. The city isn't kind to women who stand too close to me. Claire held his gaze. Neither are men who don't know how to let go. She walked out before he could stop her. Ethan stood alone, heart pounding. Because for the first time, the threat wasn't external. It was her. And the terrifying truth was sinking in. If anyone tried to take Claire Monroe away from him, Ethan Blackwood wouldn't negotiate. He would destroy. The first attack didn't happen in the boardroom. It happened in a parking garage. Claire was walking toward her car, heels clicking sharply against the concrete floor, phone pressed to her ear. Yes, I'll email the revisions tonight, she said. No, I'm not worried. She stopped. The air shifted. Instinct screamed before logic could catch up. Claire Monroe. The voice came from behind her. She turned slowly. 2 men stood near a black SUV. Not suits. Not security. Their eyes weren't curious, they were calculating. I'm busy, she said evenly. One of them smiled. This won't take long. Her hand slipped into her bag, fingers brushing her keys. Who sent you? She asked. The man stepped closer. That's not your concern. Her pulse exploded. She didn't scream. She ran. The sound of footsteps thundered behind her. Claire reached her car and fumbled with the door. Too slow. A hand grabbed her arm. She twisted hard, slamming her heel down on his foot. He cursed. Get her. Before they could recover, headlights flooded the garage. A black Aston Martin roared in like a missile. The car skidded sideways, blocking them. The driver's door flew open. Ethan Blackwood stepped out. Fury radiated off him in waves. Get your hands off her. The men hesitated. Big mistake. Ethan crossed the distance in seconds, slamming one of them into the concrete pillar with bone-crushing force. The second man reached into his jacket. Ethan didn't wait. A brutal punch dropped him cold. Security swarmed in moments later. The attackers fled. Silence fell, broken only by Claire's uneven breathing. Ethan turned to her. His hands trembled. Are you hurt? He demanded. Her voice shook despite her effort. I'm fine. He pulled her into his chest before she could protest. Firm, protective, unapologetic. She felt his heart pounding violently beneath his suit. "You don't get to scare me like that," he said hoarsely. Claire pushed back just enough to look at him. "You followed me. I always follow you." The words landed heavy. Too honest. Too revealing. Ethan took her back to the penthouse. Not as an employer. As a man who refused to let her out of his sight. Claire stood near the windows, arms wrapped around herself. "You crossed a line," she said. "So did they. That doesn't give you the right to protect what's mine?" She turned sharply. "I am not yours." Ethan stopped. The silence stretched, thick and dangerous. "I know," he said finally. "That's the problem." She swallowed. "Who were they?" "Competitors," he replied. "Men who think pressure creates weakness." "And do you?" she asked. Ethan looked at her like the question wounded him. "No," he said quietly. "I think love does." The word hung between them. Love. Claire's breath caught. "You don't even know me." "I know enough," he said. "I know you don't bend. I know you don't lie. And I know you walked into my world without fear." He stepped closer. "And now my enemies know it too." Her voice dropped. "This ends, Ethan." His eyes darkened. "No." "It escalates." She shook her head. "I didn't sign up for violence. You signed up for me." She laughed bitterly. "That's not how contracts work." He reached into a drawer and slid the contract onto the table. "Then tear it up." She stared at it. "Walk away," he said, "and I'll still protect you." Her hands trembled. "You don't get to decide that." Ethan's voice softened. "I already did." That was when Claire realized something terrifying. This wasn't business anymore. This was obsession. Later that night, she couldn't sleep. Neither could he. She found him in the kitchen, staring into a glass of untouched whiskey. "You saved me," she said quietly. He didn't turn. "I failed you." "You didn't. I brought danger into your life." She stepped closer. "You didn't put a gun to my head and make me sign." He turned then. Close, he looked tired. Haunted. "You should hate me," he said. "I should," she whispered. "But you don't," he said. Her silence was answer enough. Ethan reached out, stopping just short of touching her face. "Tell me to stop," he said. Her heart pounded. "Ethan, tell me," he repeated, voice breaking. "Before I cross a line I can't come back from." She didn't move, didn't speak, didn't run. That was all the permission he needed. He kissed her. Not gentle, not rushed, desperate, like a man starving. Claire melted into him before she could stop herself. And in that moment, contract forgotten, danger ignored, everything shattered. When they finally pulled apart, reality slammed back into place. Claire stepped away first. This was a mistake. Ethan's expression hardened. "No. It can't happen again." He laughed once. Dark. "You don't believe that." She grabbed her coat. "I'm leaving." Ethan didn't stop her. But as she walked out, he said quietly, "They won't stop." She paused. "And neither will I." Ethan stood alone long after she left. His phone rang. A known number. He answered. "She's not as untouchable as you think," a voice said. Ethan's grip tightened. "If you come near her again," he said coldly, "I'll end you." The voice chuckled. "We'll see." The call ended. Ethan looked out over the city. The contract hadn't just ruined him. It had awakened something far worse. And Claire Monroe was standing directly in its path. Claire didn't go back to the penthouse. She went home. And for the first time since signing the contract, she made a decision based on fear instead of logic. She packed. Not everything. Just enough to disappear quietly. Clothes. Laptop. Passport. Her hands shook as she zipped the suitcase. Ethan was right about one thing. They wouldn't stop. And neither would he. Her phone buzzed. "Ethan, where are you?" She stared at the screen, heart racing. "Claire. Safe. A lie." "Ethan, that's not an answer." She turned the phone face down and forced herself to breathe. She couldn't let him pull her back in. Because the truth was unbearable. She didn't trust herself around him. Ethan knew the moment she decided to leave. Not because she told him, because his security feeds went silent. "Find her," he said calmly. Marcus stiffened. "Ethan, she's being followed." Ethan snapped. "I can feel it." That wasn't logic. That was instinct. Minutes later, one of his men called. "We lost her near Midtown. Black SUV. Tinted windows." The room went cold. Ethan's voice dropped to something lethal. "Lock down every exit. Airports. Trains. Highways. Ethan, if you do this." "They took her," Ethan said. "I don't care who bleeds." Claire knew she'd made a mistake the second the elevator stalled. The lights flickered. Her phone lost signal. The doors slid open halfway. That was when hands grabbed her from behind. A cloth pressed over her mouth. She fought, kicked, scratched, but panic stole her strength. The last thing she saw was the hallway lights blurring into darkness. When Claire woke, her head throbbed. Cold concrete beneath her. Her wrists were zip-tied. A warehouse. Oil-stained floors. Rusted beams. The smell of metal and water. A man crouched in front of her. "You made this difficult," he said calmly. "Running was a bad choice." "Let me go," Claire whispered. He smiled. "That depends on Ethan." Ethan arrived like a storm. Finally, Ethan nodded once. "Go." She hesitated. "You won't follow?" "I'll watch," he said. "From a distance." She picked up her bag. At the door, she turned. "If you love me," she said softly, "you'll stop." The door closed behind her. Ethan didn't move, didn't breathe, because for the first time in his life, control meant nothing, and love meant loss. Outside, Claire stepped into the night air, heart shattered. She didn't see the car parked across the street. She didn't see the man watching her. And she didn't hear the gunshot coming. The gunshot cracked through the night. Claire felt the impact before she heard the sound. Sharp, forceful, knocking the air from her lungs as she collapsed onto the pavement. Pain bloomed across her side. Not deep, but real. Her vision blurred as screams erupted around her. Across the street, the shooter ran. He didn't get far. Ethan was already moving. The moment he heard the shot, instinct overrode restraint. He didn't shout, didn't hesitate, didn't think. He crossed the distance like a man already dead, tackling the shooter to the ground with a violence born of pure terror. Police sirens wailed in the distance, but Ethan barely registered them. He slammed the man's head against the asphalt once, twice. "Stop!" someone yelled. Ethan raised his fist again, and stopped. Claire's words echoed in his head. "If you love me, you'll stop." His hand trembled. Slowly, painfully, he stood up and stepped back. When the police arrived, Ethan didn't resist. He raised his hands. "I'm done," he said calmly. "Take me." Claire woke up in a hospital room washed in white. Her side ached, but she was alive. A police officer stood near the door. "You're lucky," he said. "Bullet grazed you. Inches from worse." She nodded weakly. "Where's Ethan?" The officer hesitated. "In custody." Her chest tightened. "What will happen to him?" The officer sighed. "That depends on how honest he decides to be." Ethan told them everything. The shell companies, the intimidation, the violence, the men he'd ordered silenced. No lawyers, no deals, and no leverage. Marcus watched in disbelief as Ethan signed confession after confession. "You're throwing away your empire," Marcus whispered. Ethan didn't look up. "I already did," he said. "The moment I chose her over control." Weeks passed, the media had a field day. Billionaire tycoon falls from grace. Blackwood empire under investigation. Love or obsession? Inside the scandal. Claire watched it all from a distance. She resigned from the contract quietly. No press. No statements. Just a letter. Ethan received it in a holding cell. "Ethan, you saved my life by letting go. That matters more than anything you ever owned. I don't know what the future holds for you or for me, but I know this: love should never feel like fear. If you ever find peace, I hope you find it without chains. Claire." He folded the letter carefully, and for the first time in his life, he cried. 2 years later, Ethan Blackwood walked out of a minimum security facility in upstate New York. No cameras. No suits. Just a man in plain clothes with less money, fewer ghosts, and something he'd never had before, accountability. He didn't reclaim his empire. He dismantled it, sold assets, paid restitution, funded housing initiatives under anonymous trusts. Buildings that once symbolized power now sheltered families. Control transformed into repair. Claire saw his name once in a quiet article about affordable housing in Brooklyn. No photo, no quote, just impact. She smiled softly and closed the laptop. Months later, in a small coastal town in Maine, Claire stepped into a local cafe. The bell above the door chimed. A man behind the counter looked up. Their eyes met. Time stilled. Ethan froze. Claire's breath caught. He looked different, lighter, older in the right ways. He started, then stopped himself. Hi, she replied. A long pause. I didn't expect, he said. I know, she said gently. Another silence. Not tense. Not dangerous. Just honest. I'm glad you're free, she said. I'm glad you're alive, he replied. She smiled. So, coffee? He hesitated, searching her face. Not for permission, not for ownership. Just hope. I'd like that, he said. If you would. She nodded. I would. They sat. They talked. No contracts. No power plays. No fear. Just two people who survived each other. Outside, the ocean rolled endlessly forward. Proof that even the most violent tides could learn how to calm. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Urban Folks TV for more emotional billionaire romance stories, redemption arcs, and unforgettable love journeys.